what's changed? Is it an educational awareness, or, 'cause, those numbers were totally different.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a different population. So, an aging population as opposed to sort of a younger population. I remember the focus groups that you were talking about. So that was African American men, sort of all ages. So there's two things that are different between that focus group and the one that we did. First of all, the focus groups that we did with the older African Americans were primarily female. And research has shown this is really not a stereotype, it's not sexist. Women are just more willing to do research projects than African American men. Okay, so that's one thing. And you also have an older population. So the aging population, I think is a little bit more forgiving of sort of medical procedures to a certain extent. Obviously not spinal tap, but they kind of used to blood draws, and they may have had an MRI before, or different scopes and things like this. So it may not be as terrifying, as overwhelming, I think, as maybe some other groups might see it. Yes?
If someone had asked me to do that 10 years ago, I was working. And I just recently did all of that except the spinal tap for the dementia study here that they have ongoing, brain study. And kind of just volunteered for everything.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have done it 10 years ago because I had to work. And those hours I'm not going to take off from work, to go do something like that, even if it's paid. Because, they don't want you to leave. You have to call in dead.
Yeah, so you're right that.
I worked in a hospital.
Yeah. So I do think that one limitation for some of our studies is the fact that people work, and you would have to take off to do some of these assessments. So yeah, I do think that can be a barrier. Some of our assessments can take 2-3 hours to kind of get through. Luckily, you're not doing this every week. You're doing this 3 times throughout a 2-year study or a year-long study. But you're right, that can be a barrier. Yes.
Dr. Newton, has anybody maybe thought of combining 2 of your concept of studies? Maybe have churches, since they're in neighborhoods, to maybe help organize the play streets?
No, as far as I know, nobody has done that particular idea. In terms of trying to combine community resources, some people have done that. But typically, the studies that I know of that have done that, they've sort of, you may have a school-based intervention that is accessing, the YMCA for the children for an after-school programs to kind of supplement what's going on in the school, and they're trying to get in contact with the parents and those sorts of community resources. So I don't think that people have combined anything with the play streets, but they do try to get a number of community entities together to address one specific problem. Those studies have been done. Yeah. Yes.
I've seen Breck and the library, which are both paid for with our taxes, combine and have one of those things. They had it on the grounds for kids that did the reading program. And so I think those are other resources. In fact, they're opening up 6 new community centers with Breck right now.
Council on Aging and Breck.
Right, Council on Aging and Breck are getting together to help the senior citizens have more resources here.
Yeah.
So I think as far as, I think we have a lot of good resources that are just starting to synergize. And that's what you're talking about. Synergizing, and what you're talking about is, putting these resources together, and kind of, instead of having all the separate pieces, you have a better picture when you put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I do think that is an area certainly that we can go, and other researchers have gone in that direction and trying to get whole cities involved in making changes. And so, I think that synergy is extremely important and is an area that we're going. It's just one of those things that's going to take time. But it's good to know that, the Council on Aging and Breck are working together. And I should also say that, these are just a few community resources. There's obviously many, many, many more resources that can be accessed Barbershops are certainly a community resource. Rec, again, as the recreation department, council on aging, there's
Libraries.
libraries, yes, that's true. So a whole bunch of community entities, and we can't access them all at the same time, but we're trying to get to many of them. Yes.
So if we talk about blocking off streets, but some of your neighborhoods are close to little parks that could be used instead of blocking off the street.
Yeah.
So we have to have somebody that would take over that. I know in this case, we probably need to walk. I know I live in West Baton Rouge, and it's a whole 2 blocks square, like, in front of my house. Our recreation department put a basketball court on one of the main street that the kids can access. But I think Baton Rouge people are coming to use it. The older guys, so they run in the little kids off, but that big old area, you talking about exercise has me tired already. I used to be active, and I don't get sleep like I need to, whatever, but I keep looking at that big area out there, and they got an apartment, low-income apartment in front of me, and whole 4 streets behind me, in front of this big open space.
Sounds like you did something wrong.
And it's just that, I mean, I think my recreation department would probably help. They'd even probably hire some people to do some work.
So I think off of that point is, so I'll speak to East Baton Parish. We have more parks than we ever need, but people don't realize how many parks actually exist. So I work in population health, so when I say we, it's a large coalition, but we are seeing in Louisiana, but specifically in East Baton Parish, that's a culture shift. That we keep saying we're going to do specific initiatives or specific things, and we need to go down to the root cause of culture shifts. Because, the USDA has been doing My Plate for generations almost, it seems like. But we still have rising obesity, right? It's a culture shift of that. And so what a lot of you all are saying is valid, and a lot of it's working like the BREC and Council on Aging. But it's going to take an entire culture shift of a community to really see systemic change, which Dr. Noonan is trying to see, is like, what are the things that I can research and see, and then how do we entice organizations and communities to embed? But there's the other piece of how do we change culture, right? Like accessing healthcare is a culture thing, right? If you were uninsured, you went to Earl K. Long, and now that Earl K. Long doesn't exist, you use this healthcare, right? And so I think that's the piece that Dr. Noonan and I talked about, but I don't know how you research that, but that's the linchpin for at least in our communities. How do you make it a culture of wanting to go outside and play?
So
Be enticing.
I do think that there are a number of parks, but we also have to remember that all these parks are not in great condition. And they're, especially when you go to Lynn Oaks and the other environment that we were in, like in Brookstown, there you go, Brookstown. There's not parks that are near there, where we were. And so the play streets is sort of an option other than the park. But I agree that, accessing the parks and getting more organizations and entities together would be helpful. And what Jared is talking about essentially is, making an environmental change. Having your environment set up so that it's easier for people to make these healthy choices in terms of physical activity, diet, sleep, whatever the situation is. And honestly, Baton Rouge is not really set up. It wasn't designed with physical activity, health in mind. It was designed, like most cities, to help people get from place A to place B and have systems and structures that serve the community, but physical activity and diet are not necessarily top of the list. But you're talking about environmental change, and it does take an entire city to actually make those kinds of things happen. Any other questions? Yes.
I think the street thing was great because the kids in that area, and I lived in that area, I worked at Earl K. Long and lived in East Brookstown. So I do know that a lot of kids, including mine, went other places, because there wasn't a lot of safety, and you don't know your neighbors. I think it starts with the kids. You know, I think schools and kids, that's where the beginning is. We're more toward the end. You know, we can influence and we can talk about it, but the kids in the schools, they're doing it. You know, they have recesses and they're wanting to get out and do things on the weekend, and I think the internet, I know my son is constantly on the internet asking Siri what's to do today. You know, what's going on, and there was a thing at the library that was, I think it was the Easter egg hunt, it was so humongous that you couldn't even get into it, even though the people were paying a lot of money to get into it. So I think people want to do things with their kids, and they need those resources, but I think the desire to do it has to be with the kids. They have to get out of the room, off the computer, and playing the games, and, you know, want to be outside, sweating it out.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
And
you
the
know,
YMCA has a lot of programs for kids,
yeah, they do. It's very good.
especially during the summer.
So, yeah, it does, I think kids naturally, many kids naturally want to be physically active and get out and do things, and I think it's also incumbent on parents to provide opportunities. It's incumbent upon society to provide a safe environment for children to play in. So I think there's a number of different players, but I do appreciate your comment that we do have to work to get our kids off of computers and sedentary devices and things of that nature. Unless, of course, they're using those to be physically active.
Which we have research about.
Yes, we certainly do.
Well, thank you all so much for coming. I know Dr. Newton will probably stay a few more minutes.